Chapter 304, Mountain Formula. Origin crystals are an extremely high-grade crystal with many uses. The energy inside can be converted into multiple uses. Origin crystals are very important to genetic newcomers, whether to the extreme branch or the mystery branch. At the same time, this origin crystal is also one of the mysterious substances that human technology is unable to analyze. The first discovery of origin crystals was discovered in the form of minerals on the extraterrestrial. However, over the years, the most common way for us humans to obtain them was through the crystallization of the bodies of some extremely powerful genetic transmutation realm experts after they died. Or perhaps it was obtained from the corpses of powerful extraterrestrial creatures after they died. There was no clear explanation for the formation mechanism. However, origin crystals are one of the currencies that can be traded in the extraterrestrial. Actually, you should have seen it before. The 5 extremely thin silver rings on the fingers of my right hand are made of origin crystals. It had the effect of amplifying mind power. Why are you suddenly asking this? What did you discover? Angshuakshu was very devoted to Zutui. She replied to a few messages in a row and basically resolved Zutui's doubts. Zutui did not expect that the 5 inconspicuous and thin silver rings on Angshuakshu's right hand were made from origin crystals. Miss Anne, I saw 2 beams of light in the sky. They were the meteor explosions mentioned in the news just now. We met a genetic evolver on the way, and he told us that they were the light that erupted when a planetary realm creature died near the ground. Origin crystals were produced after the explosion. One of them seems to have landed not far from where we are now. It's about 500 kilometers away, Zutui replied. A passing genetic evolver? Are you sure it's dangerous? Did you leave? Send me your real-time coordinates. And Zhaoxu's first concern was Zutui's safety. This made Zutun sweat a little. He felt that he was not tough enough when it came to Zuo kinking. Zutui did not have many friends since he was young. However, he would remember everyone who had helped him. He had always remembered how Zuo kinking had helped him in the practical combat class. This was also the reason why Zutui did not go all the way today. He left. He went to track the direction of the origin crystal. I didn't discover any danger for the time being, Zutui replied to Nzhaok Saksui. It's not too much to be cautious when you're outside. The security of the Wuxia sector might be the only pure land in this world. However, if you think that the entire Blue Star is the same as the Wuxia sector, then you are stupid. Thank you, Miss N. I'll be careful. Thescon night was the same as yesterday. Chengmo was the first to be on night duty, and Zutui was the last. Zutui returned to his tent and continued his regular cultivation. He had to cultivate his energy field for about 20 minutes every day, as the genetic chain of the major heavenly cycle technique was gradually activated. The energy field power that Zutui could increase every time he cultivated also increased. The effect of cultivating energy field power seemed to be related to the genetic base points that were activated. Every genetic base point related to genetic ancient martial arts could spontaneously produce energy field power every day. The cultivation of energy field power was to constantly circulate it according to a specific genetic chain order, absorbing and strengthening the energy field power into the Danshin. It had to be said that the developer of the genetic ancient martial arts cultivation was really a genius. He replicated the inner energy from 100 years ago through the combination of energy field and genetic base points. After Zutui finished cultivating his energy field, he began to adjust his breathing and slowly entered a meditative state. Then, in an extremely relaxed state, he slowly sensed the original quantum frequency of the mountain and cut in with his mind power. The first time he sensed the original quantum frequency of the mountain was the most difficult. However, he would be familiar with the rest as long as he sensed it the first time. A few seconds later, Zutui's microscopic perception once again detected the original quantum frequency of the mountain. Then, he used his mind power to try to instantiate the original quantum frequency of the mountain. It felt similar to when he was cultivating last night. The ground beneath his feet seemed to overlap with his. Zutui seemed to have become a part of this boundless land. Even without using his mental perception, he could easily extend the range of his surroundings by 100 meters. However, this perception was limited to the various changes on the ground. The disadvantage was that he could not sense anything above the ground. The advantage was that he could also sense a portion of the situation below the ground. Moreover, as Zutui's perception of the mountain's original quantum frequency deepened, the frequency at which his mind power resonated became more and more compatible with the mountain's original quantum frequency. The range of his perception was also constantly expanding. Zutui only managed to materialize the original quantum frequency of the mountain for 20 minutes. The radius of his perception increased from 100 meters to 110 meters. It was growing rapidly. This was the first ability Zutui had obtained after sensing the original quantum frequency of the mountain. However, it was still an auxiliary ability. After materializing and cultivating for a while, Zutui's mind moved slightly. While he was materializing the original quantum frequency of the mountain, he switched to the illusory introspective state. Then, he carefully observed the changes in the genetic base points in his body. When he materialized the original quantum frequency of the mountain, based on Zutui's previous experience, genetic base points that were related to a certain ability would definitely show abnormalities when one cultivated it. However, this time, Zutui was stunned after looking around. He was realistic. They all lit up. Firstly, at the location of the spleen in his abdomen, there might be dozens or even hundreds of genetic base points that were emitting an extremely faint gray light at the same time. The gray light shone continuously, turning the entire spleen into a ball of hazy light. It was as if all the genetic base points in the spleen had this ability. Other than that, the genetic base points in one area of his head also lit up slightly. They connected and formed a gray glow. Zutui furrowed his brows. With a thought, he directly cut off the spiritual connection with the mountain's original quantum frequency. This time, the genetic base points in the illusory introspective state also changed. The two areas of gray light disappeared. The genetic base points in the two areas returned to normal. Zutui was a little speechless after repeating this a few times. In this state, he could not choose to cultivate at all. There were more than 500 genetic base points in the spleen. The number of genetic base points that lit up in his head exceeded 100. Activating all of them was a huge project in itself. Most importantly, Zutui did not dare to activate it recklessly without being certain. Could it be that I have to be more specific? Zutui pondered for a moment. He felt that it might be because the original quantum frequency of the mountain that he was currently referencing was too broad. It should be related to a certain ability. The original quantum frequency of the mountain was actually just a general outline. On a whole, the School of General Senses had already developed 12 abilities related to the original quantum frequencies of the mountains. Of course, not all of the 12 abilities that the School of General Senses had discovered was related to the original quantum frequency of mountain. Instead, some still have to undergo research. In the future, as long as someone cultivated the mountain system of the School of General Senses, they would be able to discover more abilities. After all, based on the history of the School of General Senses, it was a new subject. They had already developed 12 abilities related to the original quantum frequency of the mountain. Ku Qingshan had only taught Zutui 5 basic application abilities. One was the amplification and reduction of the original quantum frequency of the mountain. These were two types. The other was the suppress formula of the mountain, also known as the mountain formula. The other was the stab formula. In terms of ability reaction, it was a little similar to the supernatural type Earth Spike. The other was sensing. These 5 abilities were relatively basic and easy to learn. The amplification and reduction of the original quantum frequency of the mountain was mainly support ability on the battlefield. Zutui had already learned how to sense. Zutui thought between the mountain formula and the stab formula and chose the mountain formula. The mountain formula was also the direction that the legendary senior of the School of General Senses, Ji, had chosen. Of course, Zutui's choice of the mountain formula had nothing to do with Ji. It was purely because the mountain formula was very practical. After materializing, it could attack and smash people. Of course, that was Zutui's way of putting it. The way the School of General Senses put it was rather flashy. It was called suppression. They used the mountain formula to suppress others. Not only could it suppress the enemy, but it could also suppress the enemy's attacks. He could use the mountain formula to defend himself too. He could attack and defend. It was more practical. The key was that after the summary and simplification of several generations of the School of General Senses, it became a little easier to cultivate the mountain formula after sensing the original quantum frequency of the mountain. Of course, when one could successfully cultivate it depended on one's comprehension ability. He had to visualize the word mountain. Tian, the Chinese word looks like mountain, so he's visualizing this character. When materializing the original quantum frequency of the mountain, he would use his mind power to visualize the word mountain. Then, he would slowly use his mind power to materialize the original quantum frequency of the mountain into the word mountain, which had special power. That was only the first step. When he continuously materialized original quantum frequency of the mountain into the word mountain with the special power, the genetic base points related to it in the human body would be activated. The inner mountain character would be formed then. Under the resonance of the mountain inside and outside, the mountain formula was completed. It was not difficult for Zutun to visualize the word mountain in his mind. His understanding of mountains had reached a whole new level thanks to the ancient books he had read over the past few days. The word mountain that he visualized in his mind was like a real mountain. It was in the shape of a mountain and had a heavy feeling. Very quickly, Zutui tried to use his mind to sense the original quantum frequency of the mountain that he had sensed. He discovered that the mountain had a special shape. He was quite talented in this aspect. Ku Qingshan said that for most students, it might take them half a month to achieve this. However, Zutui only used 10 minutes to do it. One of his 3 advantages was that his microscopic perception were powerful. His understanding of mountains was extremely deep, and his mind power was extremely powerful. Zutui did not know which of the 3 advantages was effective. He once again switched to the illusory introspection state after he stabilized the special mountain word after he materialized the original quantum frequency. The next moment, a smile appeared on Zutui's face. He had it.